It was on this campus where the dream began, the dream that ultimately became a Nike. So coming back for football weekends is something special.
Nothing like game day in Eugene, Oregon.
You're just around Nike when you come to the University of Oregon, and it's something that's just organic and natural.
When I think of Oregon, I think of innovation. I think of Nike, I think the same thing. It's not how it's been done for the last 40 years, it's how it's going to be done the next 40.
Anytime that you want to be successful, you have to have the courage to fail, if you will. You have to be unafraid.
I always thought that Dan Fouts had given the most to his alma mater. Then I met this gentleman here, Philip Knight, the CEO of Nike. Philip, nice to have you with us. I know how important this school has been to your background.
Thanks very much, Brent. It's great to be here on this day.
Phil, I think the story is worth telling all over again about the track coach and how Nike got founded here at Oregon.
Yeah,
Give us
right
a little brief on
It was
that.
right on Hayward Field, about 2 miles from here. Bill Bowerman, my old track coach, and I decided to start a shoe company, and that was 26 years ago, and it's worked pretty well.
Well, first, Hal, call me Bill. Remember, I don't like being called coach. I'm sensitive about that.
He hated to be called coach. He considered himself a professor of competitive response. However, we just called him Bill.
You've always seen Nike and Oregon tied together. Nike was first formed with, Phil and Coach Bowerman. That relationship began here at Oregon. It began with a player and his coach.
For two Ducks in Eugene, that player-coach relationship turned into something much bigger.
Trust of a coach and an athlete creating something together. You hear a lot of the folklore at Nike that it was built on a handshake because that's trust.
We made the deal with a handshake and $500 apiece.
I came here as a 17-year-old, just very uncertain of everything, and I've often said, if there's no Bill Bowerman, there's no me.
By 1971, their little shoe company had sales of $1.3 million and a new innovation.
Phil had the idea for the business. Bill was the do-gooder, Mr. Creative, and that really meshed well.
The result was the waffle trainer, a new kind of sole.
His wife got up and made waffles and then went to church, and Bowerman stayed there looking at the waffle iron, and he says, look at that pattern.
I looked at the backside of that thing and I thought, Eureka, that's it.
It was really the first innovative breakthrough for Nike and put us on the map.
The Oregon waffle, 1973. Every single pair of Nikes can trace its roots back to this shoe.
That is just fantastic. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is more material. Waffle material, look at that. Oh, this is football. That is a prototype football cleat outsole made for the University of Oregon. I'll be damned. I gotta show this to Hollister. He'll freak when he sees this.
We had been experimenting actually a little before that with the University of Oregon football team on the new AstroTurf. And that actually had a lot to do with the development of the waffle for running. A lot of people don't know that.
1970s football at Oregon, you probably see a black cleat with a white swoosh. And when that was the first Nike, was a football cleat.
Track season of 1972 was the first year that we got Nikes on the track team. That was my freshman year.
The history of Nike's relationship landing at Oregon is not new. It's been around for 50 plus years.
They were looking to find ways to become better. Almost all the time, getting better means you have to get uncomfortable.
In the early days of Nike, this is where they did some of their staff leadership retreats. To go back to the 70s, 80s, and this is really where some of Nike was born, out of time spent here deliberately with smaller group, just like this.
Butt-face meetings, right?
The first 4 or 5 people in the company, we wound up calling each other butt faces, which we don't do that anymore. We're a more professional group now. They complemented each other in terms of their abilities. And then lastly, all of them believed. We loved each other, and we were going to go through this come hell or high water, and I loved those times.
Challenge me not to live in my comfort zone, because if we're always comfortable, we know that that's an environment where growth doesn't happen.
You have to live outside your comfort zone, and I think that's what Nike's done. I think that's what we've done here at Oregon. Is just because everyone else is doing it that way, it doesn't mean it's the right way, and there might be a better way.
In the early years, 80s and 90s, we were probably a pretty average program. the end of the game at Autzen Stadium. Oregon, nothing. Oregon State, nothing.
There was a 0-0 game. When do you have a 0-0 game? I mean, that's amazing that you have a 0-0 game, but that was the infamous toilet bowl.
There was a pretty major dry spell in terms of winning a lot of games.
Looks like whoever makes the most mistakes is going to lose.
In 1989, when we went to the Independence Bowl and the success that followed that, going to several bowl games in the 90s.
Hargane had to spin all the way around. Touchdown, Oregon!
The 1994-1995 season, we go to the Rose Bowl. There's a lot of positive momentum behind the program, and that led to some conversations for Nike and Mr. Knight to get involved.
Rose Bowl year was so exciting, and then Bellotti era was even better. All of those things just built on each other, and I got very enthused. My involvement has just grown ever since.
He got excited when we went to the Rose Bowl and we went to the Cotton Bowl, and I think he said, what do we need to do? What do we need to take it to the next level?
He came to a few of us and asked what we could do to help the University of Oregon take that next step.
1998 at the Aloha Bowl, we unveiled our new O logo.
They unveiled them here in Hawaii. This is the new application, the new logo, and look at the iridescent DuPont finish to the helmet.
We needed to rebrand the University of Oregon, new uniform, new colors. So I came back to Phil and said, let's change the logo, O and the O. That was magic.
And this was the first time that Oregon donned the O.
There was a lot of learnings that came from the simplicity of the swoosh. There's nobody that was in the NCAA world that owned an O. It's not like anybody else's O can do, because they can't take Hayward Field and take Autzen Stadium and say they own it. So you have a story now that lands it right here in Eugene, that made it simple, that made it meaningful. It feels like there's a turning point. Nothing is out of bounds anymore.
Well, this summer, a pretty shocking sight. 12 blocks south of here, a Jolly Green Giant introducing Midtown Manhattan to the pride of Portland, Oregon, and to Oregon Ducks football.
The audaciousness to put a giant billboard in Times Square just showed the aggressiveness of Nike and the marketing opportunities that they were willing to get behind.
Everybody's eyes were on us. To make that kind of a statement, that was a big contributing factor to the next step that the program took in terms of recruits coming, in terms of visibility.
Why would the fans pay attention to this University of Oregon out west and they didn't even know where it was?
Oregon wasn't a national brand at this time, so people might not have known where Oregon was at on the map, and when they saw that, they knew we were serious about what was coming.
Joey Harrington became a sensation. Part of how we captured the attention was to be different. It's like, oh, I think I know where Eugene, Oregon is.
With Coach Bellotti and Mr. Knight, they wanted to be different and make our tradition non-traditional. It was introducing alternate uniforms, alternate helmets, different combinations, bright colors.
We need to appeal to the future, reinvent what a university looked like and acted like.
Oregon has actually evolved ever since '99. The cool thing is that the head coaches that have been a part of this have all been welcoming to its evolution.
I kind of gave Mike Bellotti a Volkswagen and he turned it into a F-150 Ford pickup. What's happened since is just fantastic.
You might call it the latest addition to what is quickly becoming a football metropolis.
The University of Oregon's brand new Football Operations Center is finally ready for use.
A center of football excellence, which is the Hatfield Dallin Center, and all other things that, just give you a leadership position in the world of college sports, because it really didn't exist anywhere else.
We're versatile and we're aggressive and we're going to try things. We're going to always push the envelope.
The University of Oregon, it could sort of take on the personality of Nike, which was all about innovation.
You really have to believe in what Nike is about, and it's not just shoes and clothes. It's about the wave of the future.
We think, our greatest opportunities lie ahead, and we're excited about the future.
Oregon's able to do something that's pretty cool. Their history now is good, but it's a very flexible program, like willing to do new stuff.
When I think of Oregon, and before I ever took this job, outside looking in, you see a place that's innovative. And that's really kind of been the mantra of this program, especially for the last 25 years of how can we be on the cutting edge? How can we do what other people don't do better? How can we be different?
Being innovative is a risky kind of business because some people are just not going to like change. It's tradition. This is how we do it. Don't mess with it. Remember very specifically that Nike wanted to change certain schools' stripe on the shoulder pad. all heck broke loose, as if we wanted to take the whole university out of the state and put them in Alaska. And I am happy to report that there was receptiveness at the University of Oregon. It was kind of like we just opened up this book and ideas just kept flying out off the pages.
The team that makes the most mistakes wins. So we're trying to do our best to make as many as we can.
And today, Nike unveiled the new Oregon
the unique Nike jersey.
First look at the latest style.
Duck football is not confined to traditions.
Portland-based Nike has outfitted the Ducks since 1996. Todd Van Horn is the designer.
This attitude of University of Oregon was something different. There's no guardrails. You can stand for constant change. And I think that era broke new ground.
Oregon over the last decade or so has really pioneered the idea that nothing is out of bounds, we can do anything, we can push the envelope, and that really what we stand for is constant change.
So that's become their tradition.
Yeah, exactly.
We wanted to just find our tradition in not playing by the same old rules that everybody's been playing with for years.
Them having this bravado to know that they are who they are and that they're not trying to be anyone else. Tradition is dead is not literal. It's just more of the idea around taking risks.
Connection has been made between Nike taking risks and Oregon football taking risks, and yeah, I think there is a similarity there.
What made Nike so impactful on our society and so successful is that they didn't just go the easiest direction.
The University of Oregon has given Nike something back too. A high-profile platform to launch uniforms, helmets, and of course, shoes.
I started doing limited edition Jordans that were specific to the University of Oregon with Oregon colors, Oregon logos.
Let's go Ducks, another one.
The best of Nike they offer to our athletes here. And celebrities calling my phone asking me to send them Oregon stuff, and whether or not they like Oregon or not, they want to wear Oregon product.
Showcasing how much Oregon has truly influenced culture.
These is in a good rotation of mine. Tinker, Oregon 3s. Yeah, these are super rare. These cost a pretty ticky.
And I remember working at Nike, asking if we can get pairs for LeBron James, for Wale, for Kevin Durant. There wasn't anyone in the entertainment or professional sport world that wasn't asking for these PEs. Oregon was really being trailblazers of things before they were cool.
When the threads started getting experimental in Oregon, it opened up the floodgates nationwide. Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Once we started wearing multiple helmets, multiple jerseys, it kind of became an arms race, so we were building facilities and doing uniforms, and everybody kind of followed suit.
It was the benchmark of love them or hate them. We can either be like Oregon, or no way in hell are we gonna be like that Oregon team out west. The brand value of that is phenomenal.
You're putting an image out there that was unique. Whether people liked it or not was less important than the fact that they paid attention.
Tinker Hatfield and what he could do made Oregon different than everybody else in the collegiate world. You get something like, whoa, what's that? That is really unique and different. And that's what Oregon's always done.
Welcome back again live to Los Angeles. Well, this is the 98th edition of the Rose Bowl game, and of course it's all about tradition and substance, but this week it's all about style.
Yes, it is. We got a sneak peek at Oregon's new helmet. A company in Oregon designed something called liquid metal that makes the Ducks helmets shine.
Oh, wow. Look at that helmet. Can you believe that?
Not only was Oregon becoming cooler, we were also starting to win more and more. So that's why the uniform thing sort of took off.
Early 2010s, as we started going to BCS Bowls, coinciding with Nike's innovation, people were excited to turn on Oregon football every week because we played really great football.
The era was something that I think the country hadn't seen before.
From the arena to the great outdoor, it's no secret that speed thrills. But in sports, nothing owns the out-of-our-way diamond lane like the Oregon offense.
Kansas State just found out what speed really means.
The play style and the uniforms coincided. We wanted to be fast and we wanted to look fast.
Nike mantra is that you're always on offense, and it was like the mantra for the team was, we're always on offense.
We weren't necessarily the biggest team, but we were the fastest team, and that was an innovative approach.
We try to run the race as fast as we can.
Faster than what anybody has ever seen before.
That energy of speed to the game matched a lot of the energy and speed that I think Nike had. So there was a little bit of a symbiotic relationship.
All of these different innovative ways and the know-how offense had now kicked off, and everyone was starting to try to replicate that.
Tempo.
For Oregon and how innovative and how forward-thinking they are, it's always about progression and moving forward.
The whole company existence is built around making a superior product for athletes to run faster, jump higher, and throw farther.
Nike's an innovative company, so they're always looking for performance, and that's always going to be the number one priority when designing uniforms. So it's not just about aesthetics and how they look, but it's about the performance.
The uniforms were actual functional and innovative in its technologies while looking good. It was form and fashion.
Probably the misnomer when a lot of people look at uniforms, they just think it's the flash. Before any of that starts, there is years of innovation that's put into the material science, into the actual wearability as well as durability.
Now, the duck wings are very functional.
That's the primary intent. It has a durability. It protects from, the hits from other helmets. We're getting lighter weight. We've got stretch panels through here. It's completely 360-degree materials.
The technologies and the functions plays a key role, because if these athletes aren't feeling comfortable in these uniforms, that can play a part in their psyche on the field, and that's the last thing you want as a coach.
Everything goes back to the performance of the athlete, and certainly we get to wear some really cool things, and a lot of times they have a purpose behind them too.
I think that what separates Nike is the fact that we still start our projects, and I start every project thinking about how to help improve an athlete's performance.
We design for a particular purpose, and if other people love that, that's great. And obviously they do. Lucky us.
Today's players wear their jerseys skin tight.
It's really about this hand-to-hand combat, and anything hand-to-hand, you don't want those hands to be grabbing anything.
It looks like it fits you really well.
Yeah.
There's no grab points for the opponents.
It's very unique and special to Oregon, to where they didn't leave any rock unturned of how can we really create this system of dress.
Innovating every 6 months and spending a lot of money on research and development, spending a lot of money on a lab. The product process really was developed far in advance of anything else that we did.
And Nike is calling these latest designs the most advanced football uniform system to date.
Their performance team could develop it from beginning to end in about 3 years. And so that's kind of how we got on the cadence of a new uniform set every 3 years.
The University of Oregon not only looked different than everybody else, but they actually have higher performing product.
Hey, let's try it with Oregon first. Top secret projects, you get to wear it first, and now you've got these people that are test pilots at University of Oregon testing the latest, greatest product.
Turning the university into a Nike testing ground.
They're using that campus as sort of, a lab in which they're able to test products and sort of say, hey, will this work?
Anything that Nike can come up with, we're willing to test, and part of that is being a willing test partner. And then the Nike team's coming down and getting real honest feedback on what they like, what they didn't like, so that they can make changes for the rest of the football world.
One thing that really caught me off guard when I first got here at Oregon is the amount of time that Nike spends here on our campus. They're really only a car ride away. They'll drive down here, be here at practice, and then we get instant feedback from our players on how's it fit, what's it feel like. They're able to explain some of the technology and why we think it can be advantageous for us. To me, that's different than anywhere I've ever been. They get to see it in action. They take our feedback back to Nike, and they get back in the workroom and figure out what's going to make it work for us.
It's a great collaboration between the two organizations to try to push the envelope forward for what's possible with football and apparel and design and performance.
Innovation University it's a goal that you'll never reach. It's always moving forward.
The Oregon Duck football team is headed for the Big Ten this upcoming season. With a new conference comes new uniform.
The uniform set is called Generation O.
Generation O is, basically 25 years since we, unveiled the O for the first time.
We love the term Generation O because this is the first generation of player that grew up not knowing anything before the O. Their whole lives, all they've seen is Oregon, a winning program with the O, the energy around the O, and it's that sort of thing that like, hey, this is the first generation that can celebrate that change that put University of Oregon on the map.
Oregon, for them, the snapshot in their mind is Oregon being a football school. It wasn't always that way, it is right now. These guys, they remember Marcus Mariota winning the Heisman, DeAnthony Thomas making dudes look silly, playing for Rose Bowls, playing for national championships. For some of these kids aspiring to be at Oregon at some point in time based on what they saw on their television screen growing up, attractive with Nike and with the cool jerseys, it's always kind of had a swag to it, an aura to it.
We've set the bar really high around here when it comes to not only play, but uniforms and our partnership with Nike. So a new era of Oregon football being in the Big Ten is exciting.
There's a new wave going into the Big Ten. It's an innovative school from out west that's coming into a very traditional conference. Oregon is trying to actually create something new and not replicate anything.
Dan Lanning wants to win, show that it can be done out here in the wilds of Western Oregon.
And now there's a realignment. But we don't have to worry. We're going to be just fine, more than fine. We're going to be great. So keep doing what you're doing. It's really working.
This attitude of University of Oregon was something different, and so that kind of failing fast and taking the risks is what made Nike, and I think what a lot of Oregonians and why they came west, is you take the risk.
It was a crazy idea to the outside world, but it never really was to me. That it was always a big hope.
One of Phil Knight's philosophies that I really take a lot from is have a crazy idea, and that really plays into what's possible here at Oregon.
In order to win, you have to be better, and in order to be better out here, you have to take some risks.
If you take a drive down Leo Harris Parkway in Eugene anytime soon, you will see the future taking shape.
The world is made up of crazy ideas. Let everyone else call your idea crazy. Just keep going. Don't stop.
Rooted in substance, when you talk about Nike, I think it probably all starts if you go back and look at the book Shoe Dog and you read really the story of Nike and how it became, such a prominent piece of the world that we live in today.
Nike grew and grew with a culture born and bred with an Oregon attitude, starting with runner Steve Prefontaine.
Prefontaine sets a new world best time.
I love to compete against people, and not just track and field, but almost anything.
I was on the track team with Steve Prefontaine. I think he taught us a really important lesson, which was being different wasn't good enough. They had to be better. Nike learned a lot from Steve Prefontaine.
There's a lot of Oregon is flash and not substance. Truly, if you understand Oregon, you know that there's deep roots in the attitude of people like Steve Prefontaine and how he approached his life. And then, yes, you can combine it with forward-thinking things, your style and substance. You're not one thing, but you're many things.
Rooted in substance for me means there's a purpose, there's a reason. If you look at Oregon, they are really leading the way.
You're finding a new way. Nothing is out of bounds. A lot of those principles that were intertwined with what it means to be an Oregonian and Nike, let's just bring those back together to the University of Oregon and see what we can do.
Those things all sort of added to, this mystique about the University of Oregon being different.
University of Oregon is the Nike of college football.
He's someone that I want to be like. I want to be like Phil Knight. and he's embarrassed by that when I say something of that nature, but it's the truth.
I am first and foremost an Oregonian. The state is in my blood, and certainly I would be an entirely different person if I was raised in some other state, and I think Nike would be an entirely different company if it grew up in some other state.
It's here, at the University of Oregon, where Knight's mark is most obvious.
I can get pretty emotional about this place too. I mean, after all, I was born here.
You see that relationship really fostered and how special that bond is with us. So it's been a fun relationship and certainly a unique one.
The founding principles that started Oregon were based on pioneer spirit.
People back east think we're crazy, but we want to give it a shot. The people that were in those wagon trains were willing to take their risks.
Bowerman has those quotes about, the weak died along the way and the cowards never made the trip, so that just leaves us. And that whole idea that risk and innovation go hand in hand.
Probably 98% of the time I think about either the problems or the opportunities out ahead. And there's maybe 1 or 2% of the time where I'll step back and say, it's a long way from my mother's laundry room.
Where it all started.
Where it began, yeah.
So as I look around, I feel that I'm watching that movie for a second time. The University of Oregon trajectory is the same, and we're out to bust through like Nike did 30 years ago.
Though beautiful, Oregon struck some people as the kind of place where nothing big had ever happened or was ever likely to. If we Oregonians were famous for anything, it was an old trail we'd had to blaze to get here. The best teacher I ever had, one of the finest men I ever knew, spoke of the trail often. It's our birthright, he'd growl, our character, our fate, our DNA, and it was our job as Oregonians to keep that strain alive. I had an aching sense that our time is short, and I wanted mine to be meaningful and purposeful and creative and important. Above all, different.